What are your dreams? What do you think about when you experiment with a white piece of paper? How do you start? How do you continue once you've started, and how do you end? Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in today. We're going to take another look at an imaginary landscape, starting with an abstraction and moving towards more realism and surrealism. So, without any further ado, here we go. Perhaps the hardest part of all of this process is starting with that first initial blankness of white paper. But today I'm just going to start sketching with my paintbrush, bringing in colors, and seeing where we continue and where we evolve to. Okay, now I'm going to once again do some abstracting of just the color I've laid down. No real intent yet, no idea what the content's going to be, but I'm just kind of going with bringing colors in, letting them blend out, letting them smear into the image, and eventually I'll get to a point where I see something. This is kind of like automatic drawing, and instead of using pencil, we're using paint, and I'm just establishing some sort of ground here to begin. It's already beginning to look a bit like a landscape, and I'm kind of going to go with that impulse. I think most of the times when you put down ground, you're going to see something of a landscape, at least when I do it, and this is no different. I started this channel, I think, about 2 years ago, and I've had some uh, good times with it. I've also stumbled along. I appreciate those who have stayed with me. And I think it's been kind of an eclectic thing. I go through a lot of different mixed media, and I try to bring in a lot of different processes to show you in the way that I approach it. And I use this with my students as well. So I hope I hope you're patient with what I'm doing. I really appreciate your viewership. And I'm not sure exactly where the channel will go. I'm just going to continue creating work, and hopefully you will join me in this journey. As I work along in making the color here on the paper and shapes, sometimes I think about books I've read, articles I've read, movies, film clips, travels, all that goes into everything I'm doing. I think in my mind, all these things kind of blend together. So once again, I think I'm going towards another landscape here. I've got some kind of rock formations. Here I'm going to bring in some ink, some black walnut ink. I'm sorry, yeah, some walnut ink, I should say. And I'm just going to bring that in to mix with the acrylics I'm using. One of the best ways to learn about different ways that artists bring application is to go to art galleries or museums and to see the work up close. If you're lucky enough to be at a gallery and meet the artist, you can also talk about how they approach their subject matter. All these are great ways to learn, and it's certainly something that I did throughout my younger day. I try to look at a lot of different artwork. I've done that throughout my life as a teacher as well, with working with advanced placement, but also going to small gallery shows. You see a lot of work out there that is very, very detailed, and there's a lot of brilliant work out there actually, as far as like photorealism or extreme realism. But for me, that is often a way to get stuck very quickly. Um, and trying to find an original voice or original vision where it doesn't look necessarily like other people's work is always a struggle, always a concern of mine. I'm not sure what your concern is. Maybe you want to go for that photorealistic look, but I see so many artists going in that direction in certain areas. But it's good to have an open mind and to continue experimenting And that's what I try to do on this channel. I try to experiment as much as I can with you. Here I am adding some reds into these formations I've been making. A lot of times color is about balance, either adding something to the mix or subtracting something. And putting two colors next to each other, you can see something very quickly. With this, I'm adding gouache to the dried acrylic. So if I really didn't want this on here after I've added it, I might water it out. Since it's gouache, it will come away for the most part. So trying to keep open, keeping loose, not narrowing in too quickly is what my focus is right now. Okay, now I'm going to bring in some figures into onto this rock, I guess it is. And I'm not using black. This is using blue, purple, and green and red perhaps, just to get a dark blend going. I'm not going to use black. I don't use black and white generally in my paintings. I know it's kind of probably an old idea that I learned at university long ago, but I still kind of practice that. Soon here I'll also bring some oil pastel in to bring some more color into the clothing and to the faces. While the figures are still wet, I've added this little shadow beneath the legs, and that will bring some more believability that they're standing on that surface. And or add maybe a couple more here to finish the line. I've got kind of a general idea that I'm going with now. Once again, the picture's revealing some of this to me as I start to get midway through the piece. Now I'm kind of staring at that background and trying to think about what I'm going to put in. Since it's a landscape, it kind of evolved into something maybe from the American West, but I don't like to make any of my pictures completely indicative of a certain specific place. So I'm going to bring maybe some trees that maybe wouldn't be there naturally. I've done a lot of travel across the American West and other places around the United States. So I'm trying to bring kind of a combination painting collage to that. Okay, now I'm going to go in here a little closer so you can see how I bring in the leaves and the trees. And I really just kind of create an abstract shape. And when you pull away, it's going to read more as a tree. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to my oil pastel, which I promised before. And I'm going to go back into these figures. They are dry now, and I'm going to bring just some rough shapes that read as faces. Once again, these are not really detailed. I'm staying fairly abstract, but it is a certain realism to this. So I'm also going to block in some of the shirts and have that read as such. I've also put a face up here between the two houses I did earlier, and I'm going to bring some prismacolor pencil in to kind of bring that face out a little bit more. I guess the idea at the end of this is a mirage. This line of people maybe represents believers. Do we see the illusion and take it for what it is, or do we become cultish in some way? Or maybe a blind faith. Anyway, that's some of the ideas I was thinking about. Anyway, this is the end. I hope you've enjoyed the video, enjoyed the commentary, and I will see you again next time.